almost there, Greg. Ready to go. Are we missing Herman?
No.
Okay, fantastic. All right, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
So I was reading about this guy before you guys came in, and this is going to be pretty awesome. He works for Great Coasters International. He helps design roller coasters. And so we're going to Skype to learn with him in just a second. Yep.
So he's like a roller coaster artist?
Yeah. You know what? I'm not even quite sure, and I don't want to spoil it for you, so I believe so. So we're gonna wait and hear what he has to say. If you do ask him a question, make sure that it's nice and loud and clear so that everybody else in the room can hear the question. Because it's always kind of awkward for me to repeat the question because they want to answer it right away and then I have to interrupt them, you know. So do your best to say, "Hi, my name is," and say what your question is nice and loud. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Okay, and no side conversations, okay? Let's just focus on this wonderful Skype. He's very, very, very busy. We're lucky that he was able to make time for us. We're going to put down anything that's in our hands. We're not going to hold clipboards or pencils or look at anything while he's giving up his time for us, okay? So can you just put that down? Can I trust that you're going to leave it there? Thank you. Perfect. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. I should have warned him. I'm just calling him, but I know he was standing by. I should have warned him. Hold on. Oh, there he is. I should have warned you. Hi, Mr. House. How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. I just called you. I said I probably should have said, okay, we're almost ready, and then I just called you anyway.
That's no problem.
Okay, wonderful.
No
Well,
problem.
I would like to introduce you to our third graders. They're very excited to learn from you. They're so
Hi, guys.
excited. They've been studying engineering and all sorts of things related to this, and they're very excited. So thank you for spending your time with us. I'm going to hand it over to you. And all right.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, guys, what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about myself for a few minutes. And then, Kelly, I'm actually going to get you back involved here to click a button for me. I'm going to share my screen. Got a small presentation, and I'll kind of go into that. But I'll do that here in a few minutes. So first off, my name is Adam House. I am the lead design engineer for Great Coasters. Long story short, basically that just means I'm the guy that decides what twists and turns to put on a roller coaster. So that's part of the fun part of my job. That's really why I got into this, and that's really part of the really neat thing that I get to do is create the curves and create the twists and really create the ride from the ground up. So I got my start the same as you all did, about the age you guys were. I realized that I really like going to amusement parks and I really like to ride roller coasters. I just thought it was fun. It's something to kind of get away and just have a good time. And really, as I started to progress through going to school, when I got out of grade school and started to get into high school, I realized that I could actually do that. I have to study math, science, physics, things like that. So as I went through high school, I again studied those different ideas and different subjects. Once I got to college, once it was time for me to go to college, I realized that engineering was really the direction I needed to go. Most specifically mechanical engineering, and that's what I ended up studying in college. As I went through college, I basically started to reach out to different roller coaster manufacturers and ask, hey, how do I do this? How can I become a roller coaster designer? And they gave me some different tricks, different tips to get into doing that. And as soon as I got finished with college, I jumped right in as a ride mechanic, where I was actually building trains, doing things hands-on, and eventually got into doing engineering work and actually doing design work. So, you know, if you're into math, if you're into science, you find that fun and you really enjoy doing that and you excel at that, I encourage you to maybe look at doing things with roller coasters and doing things with engineering because it's a lot of fun. Every day creates a new challenge and you never know what you're going to encounter. So that's a little bit about myself. Now, Kelly, what I'm going to do is share my screen. So I'm going to send you a link here. Once I do that, just hit confirm. Hold on a second. Okay, and just let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Loading. And there we go. We're good.
Okay, perfect. So this is the fun part of my job, guys. What you're looking at here, this is kind of some of the neat things I get to do. I get to decide what turns go into a ride and what's going to be a really cool and really fun element, and kind of give that wow factor, which you guys just showed for me. And that's what we go for. That's what I want to do as a designer. So what I'm going to do is just go into a little bit about engineering and some of the math and science that I get to deal with from day to day, and just really briefly explain kind of some of the basics of physics, and some of the physical sciences that I have to deal with from day to day. So basically how a roller coaster works, it's basically a few things. We try to conserve energy, okay? So what we do is we try to take something that's called potential energy and convert it into kinetic energy, right? So potential energy is the potential to do something, okay? So if I take a ball and lift it up in the air, that ball has the potential to fall, okay? And create and change its energy form, okay? What we do on roller coasters is do that in a large scale. We take something that has the potential to fall, which is you in a roller coaster train at the top of the hill, and turn that into kinetic energy. And kinetic energy is just energy that's moving, okay? What we also have to try to do is balance G forces, or gravity forces. Everybody sitting in their classroom right now is feeling one gravity force, or one G, okay? With a roller coaster, what we try to do is we try to take you out of that element of 1G. We try to push you to 0G forces. It basically makes you feel like you're weightless and like you're floating. Or we try to push you into like a 3G turn, which is basically feels like you're getting pushed into your seat. So if any of you guys have ever ridden a roller coaster and felt that push or getting really light, that's what we try to do. We try to balance those different G forces on your body. This is a great visualization of basically what we do with a roller coaster. So here's a great example of a ball in the air some distance, okay? This ball has the potential to fall whatever that black line is. With a roller coaster, again, we do the same thing. We take you in a roller coaster train and lift you up and give you the potential to fall. Then we drop you just like that. And as soon as you're moving, we're turning the potential energy into kinetic energy, okay? And that kinetic energy is energy in motion. So here you can see the potential energy is equal to the kinetic energy, where the potential at the top is equal to the kinetic at the bottom. And here's another great visualization. This is the roller coaster car you're in. So instead of dropping you straight down, like we just showed you with the ball, what I get to do as a designer is create really neat tracks, right? So you can see the roller coaster car on the track above, but it's some height off the ground, okay? But what I do is take that roller coaster train up to the top and come up with some really fun and cool shapes. And we take potential energy, which is the potential to fall, and turn it into energy in motion. This is a great example of what we do is we have to balance the potential energy and kinetic energy. So halfway down the hill, you've got a little bit of both, right? We still have the potential to fall some distance, but we're in motion. And then once you're at the bottom, you've got as much kinetic energy as we're going to give you. Now here's where the balance really comes in. Here's where I really have to think outside the box as a roller coaster designer. So after you go down the first hill, what I have to do is create more hills throughout the ride like you can see on the background here. But what I can't do is I can't make another hill the same height as the first hill. Otherwise, the ride doesn't make it. So here you can see, in a perfect world, we would take the kinetic energy at the bottom and be able to convert it back into potential energy at the height that we dropped you before. But in real life, I have to worry about some things that are called friction and wind loss, okay? And there's several factors that I have to think about as a roller coaster designer, and this is part of what my job is. Because sometimes you get the experience with factoring in friction that roller coaster car is not going to make it up the same height that I dropped you. And this is a great example of that, right? Because of friction loss, you can see the car didn't make it all the way up the same height over the next hill. And as a designer, I have to think about that. And I have to think about the different things that happen after I drop you off the first hill. And here's a great example, again, friction. This is what I always have to fight with, and what I'm always trying to work through and calculate to make sure it works out perfectly. And this just kind of goes to show you that the full energy of what a roller coaster is the potential plus the kinetic plus friction factored in. Now, this is a great visualization of what I get to do from day to day. This is, as a roller coaster designer, what I try to do is balance the potential energy, which is the green, okay, the kinetic energy, which is blue, and also factor in that little thing called friction. So my goal as a designer is to drop you from the highest hill, okay, after the chain pulls you up and over the top, and make sure that roller coaster car goes all the way back around and into the station to drop you back off. So as I go through and do different designs and different shapes, I have to factor in the friction. And here you can kind of see the ball that transitions along, and as we go back up, I can only go as high as friction will allow me. You can see that the second hill where the orange ball is now is not as high as the first hill because of losses. Okay, friction is a loss. The next part here just goes into kind of helping to explain what G-forces are a little bit better, or those gravity forces. So this roller coaster car sitting at the bottom of the hill is feeling the exact same thing you all are feeling right now, which is one G-force, okay? It's the force of gravity that everybody feels on Earth all the time. With a roller coaster, I try to change things, and I think that's what inherently makes a roller coaster fun, is the different forces and feeling the different forces as you ride. So as the roller coaster train goes through what we call a pull-out, okay, and up into a next hill, what you're actually doing is you're being pushed down into the car. And that's where I can increase the G-forces that you feel, 3 Gs, based on what shapes I decide to put on the roller coaster, okay? As the roller coaster climbs up over the next hill, what your body wants to do is float out of the roller coaster car. And this is why we put safety bars and lap bars into the ride vehicles, is to keep you in, is to hold you in safe. As you come up and over a big camelback, you're actually going to experience 0 G-forces, which is weightless. It almost feels like you're kind of on the moon. And that's what we want to do, is we want to create that balance, that change in G-forces. And again, as a designer, I have to keep all of this in mind. So this is really the real science part, right? This is really the nitty-gritty of what you're looking at here as far as roller coaster design. I can actually see all of the G-forces throughout each section of the ride, through the entire ride, okay? And this is only a small sample of what I typically look at from day to day. And you can see, as we go along the ride from the top to the bottom, the G-forces all change. We go from 1 G to 2 Gs to 3 Gs, and so on and so forth. Once I get all that, once I get all the calculations and the math all together, okay, and I take my spreadsheet from this page, what I can actually use is a program called Microsoft Excel, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen before, and actually plot what those G-forces are across time, okay? And this is what we call a theoretical world. This is where we try to calculate exactly what the ride's doing. What's really neat is once the ride's designed, we actually put a test dummy on there. He's the first guy to ride. His name's Fred, okay? And Fred actually reads back this information to me and gives us this. This is a true plot of what you guys are feeling on a ride, from going from 1 G to 0 G-forces to 3 G-forces, okay? And that's kind of it for what we do as a roller coaster designer. You know, this is me just out walking a roller coaster track, and this is kind of the fun and exciting part of the job as well for me, is being able to go out and inspect the ride after the ride's been existing for a few years, and kind of getting to see how time does for a roller coaster, how different G-forces affect different sections of track, and kind of being able to walk the track and do all of that. So that's pretty much everything for my presentation, guys. I guess, Kelly, we can just take some questions at this point.
Okay. I know, I'll start off with one. Magic Mountain is about 30 minutes from here. Did you help design Apocalypse, that wooden roller coaster that was once the Terminator?
I did. I actually built those trains. That was some of the first set of trains I actually got to build working in roller coasters. So, yeah, that's one of the first big rides that I ever got to work on. And another ride that we're actually working through right now is, I know, well, a little bit farther south than you guys, is actually at Knott's Berry Farm, Ghost Rider. That's the ride that we're also working on right now. So we're excited to open that one here in the next few months.
Awesome. And you build all over the world?
We do. We've really expanded our market. So we used to just build things here in the U.S., in the States, in California, Florida, things like that. We expanded over to Europe, and now we're actually in China. And I go to China several times a year for work.
Wow. Pretty cool. Very cool. Okay, we'll do some student questions, so come on up. Don't forget to introduce yourself. So you go back to the roller coasters after they've been in existence for a few years to check on them.
Yep, we just go through and inspect and make sure things are still good and things are still safe.
I like to hear that. That Terminator ride is so fast.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
It is.
How many roller coasters have you designed?
So since I've been with Great Coasters, I've probably been responsible for somewhere around 10 to 15 different roller coasters. As a company, I believe we've actually built somewhere around 20 to 25 different wooden roller coasters all over the world now.
So you work on wooden roller coasters only?
Yep, our company is one of the we actually are the only manufacturer of wooden roller coasters in the world that design it, build it, and have our own trains. So we literally are the only turnkey wooden roller coaster design company in the world.
Wow. So then, would you have had a hand in the Twisted Colossus once they redid that, or is that, I don't know if that's wooden.
So we didn't. That's actually an interesting concept. That's something our competitors do. Our competitors actually take pure wood coasters and actually turn them into steel roller coasters. what you're riding on is basically steel track, exactly like X or Goliath or anything else out there. What they've basically done is taken what looks like a wooden roller coaster and turned it into a steel roller coaster.
Oh, okay, thank
So,
you.
a little bit different take on things, though.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm?
Okay, if you have some questions, why don't you come on up over here, and that way, okay, and then we'll stop and we'll see if we have more questions after this. So if you're not already standing, okay, introduce yourself.
My name is Courtney, and my question is, how many years have you been creating your roller coaster?
How many years have you been creating your roller coasters?
Okay, Great Coasters actually got started back in 1996. So probably older than a lot of you there is when Great Coasters actually got started. I have actually been with Great Coasters since 2009 when I graduated from college. So I've been doing it myself for 7 years, but Great Coasters has been around for, well, several years.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Mhm.
Hi, my name is Evelyn. What inspired you to make roller coasters?
Well, that's a great question. What we do to get inspired for creating roller coasters is a few things. One, we look back on roller coasters we've already built and look for elements and things that we wrote and we thought were exciting. Things that were kind of that wow factor, right? Things that look great, feel great, and are fun to ride. At the same time, we actually try to take new elements and try to create things that are new and different and exciting. Sometimes those things don't work so well, and sometimes they work really well. And that's kind of where we draw our inspiration. You know, we kind of take things, we use a blend of things. We use a blend of things that we've seen in the past versus new concepts and really try to come up with something that's fun and exciting and keeps people coming back to ride. Good question.
Hi, my name is Kylie, and my question is, do you have any like similar things to architects?
Kind of. So what I always say for people is when you're comparing like somebody that's an architect for somebody that's an engineer, architects come up with really cool and unique ideas and are kind of more artistic, and engineers basically use science and mathematics to make architectural things work. So we don't necessarily work with architects for actually designing the rides, but we do, however, work with architects sometimes for creating buildings and creating really neat concept things like that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Joshua, and my question is, when have you finished your roller coasters?
Typically from the start to the finish, it's about a 1-year process, and that's from the first time that we talk with a park to the time that we finish it. The engineering takes about four months to do, and the time on site typically takes somewhere from 8 months up to 12 months, just depending on where we're at. Here in the U.S., we can usually build a ride from start to finish in a 1-year period. Overseas, we usually give ourselves about 16 to 18 months, so almost a year and a half.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Ricardo. My question is, do you design any roller coasters in famous theme parks?
Yeah, we design roller coasters all over the world, and our clients could be anybody from Six Flags, like we talked about at Six Flags Magic Mountain, to parks down at Knott's Berry Farm. Some of the parks that we haven't worked at that are big parks are like Disney. We have not built any rides at Disney or any rides at Universal Studios yet. But some of our bigger clients are like Cedar Fair Parks, Six Flags Parks. If you've ever heard of Dollywood in Tennessee, we've worked there. We've also actually got a ride opening for 2017 next year at Busch Gardens. So.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Hi, my name is Ishwani. My question is, if you had any other job you would want to work in, why?
Yeah, you know, there's actually a few things I looked at doing when I was growing up. I know when I was pretty young, this is kind of far-fetched, and this is going to get a little bit different than roller coasters, but I actually wanted to be a paleontologist and go out and dig up fossils and dinosaurs. Kind of as I got through that and realized I don't like necessarily being out in the heat all the time, you know, I kind of got into, that's when I really focused on, I like science and I like things of that nature, and really realized that I do like the way that science and math come together. So it made me realize that I like engineering. And what's great about engineering is you can kind of do a lot of things. You know, I've got a lot of friends that actually design cars. I design roller coasters. So really with an engineering degree, you can do a lot of things. And that's kind of the spectrum of what I wanted to do anyway.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Hi, my name is Michelle, and my question is, do you have another job? And if you have another job, why do you like it, or why do you don't like it?
So I guess within Great Coasters, I have several jobs, and you could almost say I wear different hats at Great Coasters, right? So I'm the lead designer, and I actually come up with ride layouts. But there's other jobs that I have to do at Great Coasters. Some of those jobs can range from going on site and actually do commissionings. Actually, last week I was actually out at Knott's Berry Farms, and I just got a call randomly to go out there and do some inspections. So my field of what I do kind of ranges quite a bit. I also field questions when a park calls and says, hey, we've got a part that's no good, or we've got some questions, can you help us? That's also part of what I do, is I field questions and do with that. So really, with a company as small as we are, my roles and my jobs here at Great Coasters are numerous, and there's a lot of different things I have to do. So, good question.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Marielle, and what is your favorite ride that you have made?
That's a really good question. I think my favorite roller coaster that I helped work on was a ride out in Kansas City, Missouri called Proud. It's a great example of a ride that basically shoots you out through the woods. Okay, at night it's super, super dark. You're actually in the trees. It does a lot of different twists and turns, and I think it's just a fun, exciting ride. I think probably my second favorite ride that I helped work on was a ride up in actually Great America, up in near San Francisco, called Gold Striker. And that ride is wild. That is one really wild ride that's super, super compact and has a lot of different twists and turns on it. So, good question.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dishan. How many roller coasters have you made?
I have worked on around 15 different roller coasters. Great Coasters as a company has actually built around 25 different roller coasters, so quite a few, and all over the world too.
Good job, good question. I was curious, let's see, so what scares, of all the roller coasters that you've built, or that Great Coasters has done, is there something that was so challenging and you thought it never could be, and then you guys were able to make it happen? Like, what's been your most challenging and successful? And then also, what are your dreams? What's the biggest thing? With technology improving, you're able to do more and more, I would imagine. But there's still limitations. But is there something that you have a dream for that someday maybe you hope to create?
Yeah, sure. So kind of going along with that question, I don't know if it's necessarily something that is technologically advanced. I think we've actually made changes to our rides over the years, and we actually try to improve our rides constantly. And we actually talk with parks that we've done work for in the past and try to figure out what their problems are so that we can resolve those over the future of selling roller coasters. I think as far as kind of my potential and what I would like to see us build at, there's a few parks. I'm local here to Cincinnati, so there's a few parks nearby that are kind of like the coup de grace, like the main ones that I've ever wanted to build a ride for. And I think that'll happen one day. So there's certainly parks that I prefer. As far as challenges, no doubt in my mind it's China. 100% it's China. There's so many different things that you have to go through in different outlets to work in a different part of the world that going into it, we knew we could design a ride for China, but it's kind of a paperwork nightmare, really, when you get over there. And there's a lot of things involved and a lot of paperwork that you have to do. And some of the requests that you get as far as paperwork and sourcing things really goes back so far that it kind of drives you crazy and you don't think the project's going to get finished. But we've now got 2 rides we've built in China, and we're actually building 2 for 2017 right now. So we have certainly jumped over that hurdle, but it definitely took some time to get over that.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, yes, we have a teacher question coming up from Ms. Kirola.
Hello, I'm a 3rd grade teacher, Ms. Virola. I learned that when we ride a roller coaster and the butterflies we feel in our stomachs when we do so, it's called microgravity. How is that similar to the G-forces? Are they the same, different, or similar to the ones that you were explaining to us earlier?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. They are almost identical. They're pretty much the same thing. What that is we try to make directional changes, and we try to change those G-forces very, very quickly. So if you can imagine, what we do is when we pull you up 100 feet in the air in a roller coaster car, we drop you down, right? So as you guys get older and as you guys start taking physics classes, you're going to learn things about Newton's law, okay? And there's one of Newton's law that an object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest remains at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. What that basically means is, as you come over the top of a roller coaster, your stomach stays up here, and the roller coaster train goes like this, off, okay? And what that does is it makes your stomach feel like it's flying, it's floating. And those are the butterflies and the stomach feelings that you get, is because your stomach and your body wants to be somewhere else, but the roller coaster car pulls you along. And as you feel those forces, really, as you get pulled down, as you get light, those are really the feelings that you feel, and that's kind of how your body reacts to different G-forces. So that's a great question.
Okay, go ahead.
What is your scariest ride?
Our scariest ride probably is the ride we just built in China. It's the longest, tallest, and fastest roller coaster we've ever built as a company. It's about 160 feet tall, almost 1 mile long, and it's crazy. I mean, from start to finish, it's the one ride. So I love roller coasters. You know, I grew up riding roller coasters my whole life. Actually, what's funny is when we get finished with the roller coaster, I like to just sit on the roller coaster and ride it over and over and over again. It's kind of relaxing for me. But our ride in China was the first ride that I rode. We came up and over the top of the lift hill. The ride went for a mile long worth of track, okay? Pulled back in the brakes, and I had to catch my breath. It was that long of a ride, and it felt that intense. So
Wow.
That was a great question.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, do we have any other questions, teachers? No? Right there. Okay, come on up. Are you okay on time for a couple more questions?
Sure.
Do you have
I can take a couple more.
Okay, fabulous. Do you have a difficult time with smoothness on a ride? With wood?
So, well, that's actually what makes wooden roller coaster so unique. I think is that's really part of the fun job. Is at the end of a ride when we go to a commissioning, we actually we're the first people to ride the ride. Okay, and we know what a wooden roller coaster is supposed to feel like. So what we do is we actually ride the ride to feel if there's any really strange bumps in it. And what's great about a wood coaster is we can actually go in with a planer or different type of equipment and actually smooth out surfaces. So when you hit an outside rail and move around, it's a nice smooth transition. Versus a steel coaster, if you design a steel coaster and you got a bump in there, there's some serious work that needs to happen to fix that. So really, that's probably one of the better things about a wooden coaster is being able to customize that and make it our own.
That's awesome. Okay, go ahead.
What kind of wood did you use to make your roller coaster?
That's a great question. We actually use southern yellow pine, so like a big pine tree with like the cones on it. We use those, but they're actually farmed. They actually come from a big farm. And there's actually several farms that come from Alabama, Georgia, several of the states down in the southern United States. So they're actually come off of farms, but that's a great question. What we actually do is we actually grade all of our lumber, 1 through 3. We only use number 1 lumber, which is the best lumber that you can get. Okay, it's usually from the heart of the tree, really nice, strong lumber. And we can actually regulate that. And the reason that we use all of the same lumber is because we know how that lumber should act structurally. Okay, if we start to use number 2 and number 3, it gets really weak and really soft. And if we start to use different types of wood like fir or oak or things like that, we have to worry about different types of strength. With using the same lumber all the time, we know exactly how it's going to react, and it works really well for us.
Wow, that was a fascinating question. Thank you so much. That brings me to think of what about swelling and with wood and rain? Yeah.
Yeah. So rain is actually the greatest thing that we can ask for on a wood coaster. So of course there's expansion and contraction with wood. That's how wood works. When it rains, that wood sucks up like a sponge and swells. Okay. When that wood swells, what it does is it keeps all the hardware all the way around the entire ride nice and tight. Okay. So if you're in a very rainy climate or a wet climate, the rides usually stay together and stay really well built for a long time, because you don't have that constant expansion and contraction. I mean, of course it happens, but it's not all the time. So we prefer a wet environment because it keeps all the hardware tight. Honestly, the hardest environment to build in is like at Six Flags Magic Mountain, where it's a desert all the time. Where that wood, what happens is there's a moisture content in the wood. The wood actually shrinks, okay, and makes all the connections throughout the whole ride loose. And the longer that ride stays loose like that, the more the track feels like this. Okay, it feels like it's going to rock you all over the place. Our recommendation for parks is to actually go through. Typically, it's a once-a-year process, but for somebody like Magic Mountain, we would make it a twice-a-year process. They actually climb the entire structure top to bottom and tighten every bolt by hand, so that it keeps everything nice and tight. So really, the dry climates are the hardest one for us to deal with.
Yeah, when I was listening to you talk, I thought, oh great, the California drought and our Magic Mountain. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, and I think of all the rides out there, I think Magic Mountain ride has the toughest time just keeping the ride smooth because of how dry it is out there.
Okay. Do we have any other questions, teachers or students? That was fascinating. So I was curious because is it in my mind that when I ride the Terminator that it's more not as smooth as time goes on, given what you just described, or is it just all in my head?
No, I think especially for that ride in particular, that's definitely true. You know, we've had extensive conversations with the guys at the park to try to mitigate and make the ride smoother over time. We've got a lot of rides that do really, really well. There's a few rides that we have in Tennessee, some rides over in Pennsylvania that they're constantly ranked among the top 10 roller coasters in the world because the crews have an easier time. And really, honestly, the biggest thing about that is the environment that the ride's in, no doubt in my mind. So I think for that ride in particular, I think yes, I think it's probably getting a little rougher over time. But I would encourage everyone to go out to Knott's Berry Farm because Ghost Ride is going to be awesome.
That's awesome. Yes, I was just curious if it was just me getting older. I couldn't tell
No,
the difference.
it's definitely that ride. So
That's wonderful. Yes, Ghost Rider. Raise your hand if you like roller coasters. Not everybody does. Ooh, I do too. Oh, well, almost everybody here does. Fabulous. Fabulous.